Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corps Classic Class Known Classics. This is episode number 1557 and Doubleshot number 1451. I have two trades from Charles Soule. Yep. And they're both kind of finales. Okay. First up, we have the final trade that collects issues from Swamp Thing Volume 5 and also the final trade of Charles Soule's run for the series. Yep, collecting issues 35 to 40, the third annual, and Future's End. The Future's End, which I've kind of discussed before in the Future Omnibus book I own, but basically it kind of loosely ties into the story here, where Swamp Thing is taking on the Gray, and it's all about mechanical creatures, and he has to team up with the former Swamp Thing to take him on. That's the main gist of the story. And he does defeat them and reunites with his love, Abigail Arcane, which, because she's the avatar of the Rot, because of the fact they still love each other, they make out, and of course he gets hurt by it. Physically, because she's from the Rot. Now, Capricorn, who has been a recurring character in the book ever since the previous arc, she dies in the story arc. Yep, she dies. And she's still dead. As a matter of fact, like any of the previous Swamp Things in this book, they get killed off. They even guess it's the finale for this particular run. They even bring back the Cedar, which it had been a while since he was last seen, but at least they waited a while. The reason why he's here is because they needed help taking the Gray. So why not have a team with a four bad guy? Why not? And I gotta say, ends up on a pretty good note, and that's pretty much the whole run for Charles Soule and Volume 6 for Volume 5 for Swamp Thing. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Just really good. Yeah, of course, that's the messenger from the Gray. Yep. Of course, the artwork is still mostly done by Jesus Santos and Javier. These two are probably the main artists of this book. It's a big, humongous, epic battle that pretty much takes the whole entire trade. Also worked by Carmen Carino, Yannick Brink, I met this guy really nice person, Ronnie Brown, and David Bullock. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the whole thing of basically Swamp Thing versus the Gray, that's pretty much the main gist of this. We also have a bit of flashback with Etrigan the Demon and Vandal Savage, which is so cool. The fact that Etrigan the Demon gets a chance to participate in this particular stuff, which is so awesome. He's just a great character. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm trying to figure out who this woman is, who is pretty much the leader of the Gray. Mm-hmm. Okay, apparently the Gray are not an original creation. They're actually, from an old anime of Swamp Thing. Yeah, so she becomes a robot. Yeah, it's definitely what comes to the moon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something those shows set up the Gray to be pretty much the final villain of this run. And he does pay it off. Mm-hmm. Oh, I almost forgot to mention. They have John Constantine show up in here, who shows up with the remains of Alec Holland, the actual one. And it does play a role in the finale for this. But this is really good. Yeah, but in the case of this overall run for Swamp Thing, this one was really good. Yes, it's something that this book lasted for 4 years, had a couple of hiatus, it had to go on break for 1 month, only happened like roughly just a couple times. Actually, like 3 times it happened. The first time for Zaren Month, the second time for Villains Month, and the third time for Future's End. Yep. First is Scott Snyder doing the book, and then you have Charles Soule doing the book. Now, the ending of this book, like this book ending particularly, I'm not really sure what was the reason for it. I mean, you could have continued the book even without Soule. Like, why did the book have the end? No idea. It's by far the second longest volume of the entire series. Yes, it is. Soule, in my opinion, did a fantastic job of the book. Now, is it better than Scott Snyder's run? Scott Snyder's run gets a lot of really good praise. I'd say it's just as good as the Scott Snyder run, definitely. And I find nothing wrong with it. It basically is kind of similar to what I felt for Jeff Lemire's one for Green Arrow. It actually felt like you're reading what the title says. Like Green Arrow, you read Green Arrow stories. Swamp Thing, you read Swamp Thing stories. That's what it felt like to me, and I like when I see that. Alright, next up is the final book for Charles Soule writing for this franchise, because the first thing he did for this book was a short-lived ongoing series that later led to this, and then 2 spin-off books that he wrote the first. One of them he did the first arc for, the only he did the whole series for, and that was it. He started this era back in 2013, and in 2017. But this is actually one of the books considered part of the franchise. This is Battle World, Inhumans, Attilan Rising. And this is written by Charles Soule, one of 2 Secret Wars miniseries he wrote. Yes, one of 2. Because the other one was Civil War. And no, they had nothing pretty much to do with the Civil War that came the following year. That was simply an alternate reality version of the original Civil War that happened back in 2006 and 2007. This is all about the Inhumans, where they have their own domain, New Attilan, and there's a bar in there called the Quiet Room, which this particular room, I should point out though, this particular miniseries is debut of this particular room, and Black Bolt is the owner of the bar. Well, the nightclub anyways. He's owner of the Quiet Room, just like he is in Candy Inhumans. And like they go sort of like in a time loop where basically him and Medusa are not married in this continuity. There's no mention of marriage, so there's no mention of their kid Athura. Great character who he's an absolutely great character, despite the fact half the time the writers forget he frickin' exists, despite the fact they do remember, they do remember Luna, Medusa's niece, but her son, nope, half the time they forget the guy exists. And it's all about resistance. It's interesting though that Charles Soule went with that he had New Attilan look the way he does in our continuity. And as which domain this is set in, I would probably say could be the same domain they had the Ultimate End thing set in. It's possible. It's all set in one city, which is really good. And Medusa is the ruler of New Attilan, just like how she is in the Ruka continuity. As a matter of fact, she was the ruler of New Attilan up until 2017. Yeah, roughly for 4 years by herself. And she was with her husband, then she left him. Well, they became separated. Yep. And, well, I should point out the artwork container is done by John Timms. This is only just a 5-issue miniseries, which not surprising, but love the cover artwork here. It basically reminisces of a movie poster. And the cover art is done by Dave Johnson. This is, of course, just really good. Yeah, just a good book. Give the book a 9.5 out of 10. And that's pretty much the end of everything related to Charles Soule's time on the Inhumans. Because it started with Inhuman, the 14-issue series, plus there was an annual for it and a special that basically was part of this 3-part story involving Red Raven, who was an old character from the 40s. Excuse me. Then he had a replacement series again, Inhumans, where you had issue 0, but issue 1 had come out to. After this miniseries wrapped up, after this miniseries wrapped up, we had, of course, 2 Inhumans ongoing series launched after this one. The first being, one of them being Candy Inhumans, that lasted for 23 issues before being concluded, Advent of Inhumans vs. X-Men. The other was all new Inhumans, an absolute great series that Soule did do co-writing for the opening story arc, which was actually hit up early on. But after that, never did the series. James Amos basically did the book solo for the rest of the series, for the series to abruptly get canceled after 11 issues. It possibly did low sales, no idea. At least Canadian Humans are probably a good reason why, because they probably want to do a relaunch of the Human titles. After Soule left, basically after Canadian Humans ended, that ended his tension with the Inhumans. And of course, those two books were replaced with, of course, there was also one other Humans book that I have not covered yet. And I will eventually cover it in the bullcrap of the publication schedule for that one as Karnak. That's one of the few titles I have not covered from the Humans line of books that come out from 2013 to about 2018. I've covered majority of the books. The only books left to go are The Royals, Black Bolt, Karnak, and that's it. Just these 3 books. Yeah, and that's pretty much all the Human books that there is left, because with that, that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it for particular review. I'm hoping to do one more anime time. I'll do Boruto, and that'll be probably pretty much it. I'm probably doing our comic corner after that, but yeah. So, into this next video. Bye.